Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Aadil.
Hey!
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Good. Have you got a beer? A beer lined up, ready to go?
Yeah, I do have a beer.
Good, okay. What are you going to drink?
I don't have much to say, but I do have a beer.
Oh, okay, fair. Do you mean in general? On games? On the beer itself?
To be honest, I'm kind of wiped. Probably in general.
He's like just ran at you for 30 minutes or so. What are you going to drink? Have you cracked it open already?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It is
Ooh.
the Kernel Export India Porter.
Nice.
It is a 5.8% bottle conditioned hot mosaic. It's purely mosaic. But I was really interested. I don't know if I've never had I don't think I've had an Export India Porter.
Just trying to think. Definitely an export porter.
Yeah.
What does the India mean?
I'm assuming it's like the India for India Pale Ale, given that it had in big bold letters mosaic hops. But yeah, this was one of those. I trust Kernel, and what is this? This seems like something to figure out live on the internet.
What size is that bottle?
Give me one sec.
Looks bigger than a 330.
Yeah, it is a 500.
Okay, nice.
Nice, solid.
Brilliant. I don't think I've had a Kernel for...
Look, see, this is what happens when I try and answer a question. Give myself like what, 2.5 fingers ahead.
Yep, all the froth.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's it for a bit.
What was the percentage?
5.8.
Cool. I'm stepping it up 1 whole percent to a 6.8 percent beer. I'm drinking Cosmic Dance, if you're common like me, from Two Flints, who are a brewery I've never had before. This is a NEPA.
Where are they from?
They are from... I don't know, it doesn't give me a town. PO18. I don't know where that is.
PO18?
Brewed and packaged at Little Monster Brewing. I think Little Monster Brewing are like Surrey way. They're southeast, I think. Maybe? Or am I thinking of someone else down that way? I don't know.
Looks like they're in Chichester? Little Monster.
Southeast-ish, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep. Wait. Interesting.
Oh.
Founded by award-winning brewer who has had a passion for local craft beer since he was introduced to it when traveling in Canada back in 2000.
Oh.
Apparently he was drinking amazing Montreal craft beer.
Fair enough.
And then worked at Gypsy Hill before founding on Little Monster in 2018.
Nice. So Two Flints, I suppose, are slightly different, I guess. There's a little bit of flavour text. Nothing on them themselves. But two of our favourite hops combine in this New England-style IPA. A protein-heavy grist containing malted wheat, torrefied wheat, and rolled oats provides a super soft, silky mouthfeel bursting with soft fruit character. It's got Citra and Motueka in it as the hops. As the can.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I also like the font they use.
Yes. What for the
brand name?
The brand name. Yeah.
Yeah.
New brewery. I thought I'd try it out. So yes, we shall see in a moment. But we'll come back to you for the Export India Porter. Yeah.
So you can see I've lost about a finger of head in all this time. Really thick. Oh, it's just a little washed out. Yeah, there we go. Little thick, quite thick head. Clings to the glass, but like drops fairly reasonably, so you don't see very many legs. It's got a really lovely chocolatey. Oh wow, yeah, you can. It's really interesting. It's got a very chocolatey porter nose with just this clear mosaic hit.
Okay.
Which you would think doesn't work together, but it really does. That's so interesting.
You gotta love a beer like that.
Hmm?
Gotta love a beer like that. It's just a weird combination of flavors which seem to go well together.
Oh, interesting. I feel like I've hit all the bits of the taste curve with them not being stitched together.
Ah, okay.
So it's got the like bitter, like just straight up bitterness of like an export beer. The porter is really sedate, even despite the way it looks like the porter flavors.
Yep.
Just giving the background, and then like I said, like once the taste sort of fades, you're just like, oh, it's drying bitterness. But again, it's quite the drying bitterness is a bit flat, like in the sense of like I'm not getting the specific mosaic bits. I'm getting them more on other parts of the taste curve. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely mosaic, but that like, and hopefully once my palate gets used to it, it won't be so like, ugh. Because it's definitely one of those things which I often talk about, which is the when the beer sort of kind of twists your arm into drinking more quickly. Which, for an export beer, that kind of makes sense. But I'm getting a bit of a cola-esque, aspartame something in that drying out. That's a little. The cola-esque part's fine. The like, just something like, I don't know what it is.
Just a sort of added sweetness to it.
Yeah, but not real sweetness. Maybe it's just because it's so bittering that it's like the actual sweetness is just getting pulled right back, and it feels fake. Yeah. I'm gonna. It's very curious. It's good. I really like the mosaic when it hits sort of the first hit of taste happens. Mosaic's a little burst, and then as things fade, you get that drying out, and the mosaic's still a bit there. I'm actually surprised at how few sort of the chocolatey coffee, malty, portery tastes there are. But yeah, I'll nurse this half liter, and perhaps it'll, once my palate's a bit more used to it, some more will come out.
Yeah.
So I'll reserve judgment on like, is it fun to drink as a one-off, or would I get this again until a bit later? How about you? How's your beer?
It looks good. It had a nice smell when I cracked the can. Lots and lots of big fruit on there. But yeah, bit light in colour, more straw than orange. As the I think the camera shows it a little bit more orange than it actually is. A little bit more straw. But incredibly smooth. Wow, that's really good. There's a slight hint of carbonation on it, but it's so soft. So soft and so smooth. It's really easy to drink. Has the same kind of fruit flavors that you're getting on the nose, which is again nice and soft. It's more stone fruits. Maybe there's a slight sweetness from a little bit of mango, but it edges more towards the kind of apricot kind of end of things, and I don't know how they've done that with Citra and Motueka. The nose gives a little bit more, maybe bigs it up just a slight amount, gives it maybe a little bit more bitterness and earthiness in the nose, which I don't quite get on the flavour. Which I think for this beer is absolutely fine. Like, it comes in super soft, comes in super smooth. The flavour delivers that as well. And then it just nicely fades away. There's a little bit of... when we get those bigger... when we get something like a 10% tipper, And towards the end of the beer, you have this kind of residual, slightly dank sweetness to it. It has a little bit of that in there. Makes it feel like it's a little bit bigger than it is. And I think with the smoothness, with it having a bit more of a full body and a really nice, smooth but big flavour, this is very, very well made. I might get towards the end and be like, yep, this was kind of one can and done. It's a big beer, didn't need any more than that. But at the moment, that initial hit is really, really good. I've already chugged half the glass.
Oh, wow. No savouring that.
You sip it, and you realise that actually you want a big swig rather than like a light amount. Because you want to get all of those big flavours from it. That's really nice. Well, there we go. First beer from Two Flints sold. This is one of those beers that as soon as I see another Two Flints beer, I'm going to buy it just to see what it's like. They've absolutely sold me on what they're doing in not even half a beer so far. So yeah,
that's great.
It is great. It's definitely a New England pale. It's doing all of those lovely soft stone fruit things that you would expect. They've hit the style really, really well, but made something that feels maybe a little bit bigger as well, or at least pushing those flavours a little bit more, making them very bold. But as I say, incredibly soft and incredibly smooth. I'm going to stop talking because I'll just repeat myself, repeat the same four things over and over and over again because it is those things. So I'll shut up and we can drink our beers and have a little chat about gaming and maybe a tiny chat about what I've played.
I mean, that sounds great.
Which isn't a huge amount.
You do.
I deviated from Marvel Snap slightly and was given a code for another mobile game. Something that is available on Steam as well, called Delete After Reading. And
interesting.
It is how to describe it? It's like a text adventure game. And basically it's a text adventure game with lots of puzzles in it. And the narrative is told through the text. Everything is pushed through the text, and the puzzles are also mostly derived from what you gather in the text as well. So you might have, it starts off kind of story-wise with the protagonist going, "I'm having a really bad day," and you find a device which has a file on. I think it's got a file on called Delete After Reading, and you can't access this device. It doesn't work in any way, and so you're like, "Oh, I've got to do my homework," and all this sort of stuff. And whilst you're scrolling through this text, which is telling you all of this, a few images come up, sort of interstitially between some of the text, and one of them is of that device or of your backpack. And as you progress down through the story and through the text, suddenly the text will stop. Because it says, "I need to do this." And you're like, "Oh, okay, well, how do I do that?" And the answer will be within one of those pictures. So you go back and suddenly you can click on the picture and you can do something within that picture, whether it's turn the machine on, whether it's look in your bag, whether it's open a drawer. Lots of different sort of interactions that come with these images set within this text. And what that will do is, once you've done whatever it is you want to do in the image, it will load a bunch more text as well. And
interesting.
Sometimes it's clicking on things in the text to progress it through. So there's an item where I said, "I think I might need to tap this a few more times," and the word "tap" is highlighted. So you have to hit the word "tap" because it's mimicking that motion within the text. But that might then send you back right to the top of the chapter's worth of text, right to the first image again, because you've tapped and the first image was of a bedroom and suddenly there's a hatch that's appeared on a wall or something like that. So you're constantly having to scrub up and down through this text to look for the clues and look for the hints of what you're trying to do. And so far, I think I'm on chapter 4. I don't know how many chapters there are, but I'm on chapter 4, and so far it's all been done very, very well. I've enjoyed and never felt like I've had to, or it's never felt cheap, let's say. It's never been like, oh, I've just got to do, this, or I've just got to kind of like tap on this picture a few times and it will happen. Things only trigger once you get to those points. So it's constructed in a way which feels very sequential.
So it's not like, so it is backtracking. Like you can't like sequence break because certain things have to get tripped in order for them to be like unlocked.
So from what I've experienced so far, yes, I think so. An example is there's a picture of a robot, and you can't do anything with the robot. You can't click on it. Nothing happens, and you then have to what do you do? I can't remember exactly what it is that you have to do, but you have to do something for you to then be able to click on the robot. You have to either scroll down further through the text and read more, or there's then a trigger which you have to click within the text, which will allow you to go back to the robot. And the robot has a puzzle kind of within it, which you need to figure out, which has clues within the text. This was actually one that I was stuck on a tiny little bit. But it's because I hadn't progressed far enough. I'm like, I get it. Oh, I haven't unlocked enough clues. You preempted it,
but you weren't allowed
exactly.
Doing it.
So I hadn't unlocked enough text to give me more of what I needed. So I had to just progress through with something else and then come back to that part. So sometimes it will allow you to go, oh, I can see what I'm meant to be doing here, but I don't have the information. There must be something else that to progress with.
But you haven't found that like annoying or limiting, like that, like you can't.
No, because the narrative moves quite swiftly. You're never sort of sat there feeling stuck. So it's kind of, I've never sort of sat there going like tap 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 tap, keep tapping the robot because I really want to work out what's going on with this thing, and I'm just kind of trying to guess and hack my way through it. I've gone, right, well, there's something else here, and everything is compelling enough for me to go, I'll just go and find out what that is and progress through the story a little bit more. It's really short. Like, it doesn't take long to play one of these chapters. Maybe 20 minutes. I think I don't know whether I've even spent an hour with it, and I'm on chapter 4. So it moves quite quickly. And it is a hefty body of text and story to run through. But it's in between each of the chapters, there's sort of little narrative scenes to introduce characters and those kinds of things as well, which work very well as sort of little interstitial kind of breaks from having so much text and having to read so much through. So it has a good balance of getting you through this narrative and pulling you through to uncover what's going on and be able to progress with those puzzles. It's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's gone from my mind, but it's the opposite of pastiche, right? It kind of is almost trying to be this sort of detective kind of story, but without being, noir, and without giving me the tropes that come with this kind of game. It's quite fresh in the way that it sort of presents its story and its characters and the art style, that you don't feel like, oh, okay, I'm hitting the same beats as I would hit in every other game. Even though some of these things absolutely have been pulled from, other games and stuff, you don't feel like you're just having to do the same stuff over and over again that you've done in previous games. So I think it's just very, very well made. And I'm, excited to kind of have more time with it. It starts out, does it give you a message at the start to say grab a notebook? I think it does, but because I did to make notes as I was going through, and I've used it almost with every single puzzle. I've had to start making notes, or I've just been reading through, jotting down what I think is sort of like the important information that I might need. And there's actually no need to do that, because the puzzles are not simplistic, but once you know, you will be able to scrub through the text quite quickly to pick up where you need to be. So, again, for one of the puzzles, and people will probably have forgotten this, hopefully, if they do go and play it, so I'm not spoiling anything. One of the puzzles wants you to find some numbers. One of the clues is the penguins, right? And so, in part of the text, I'm like, right, fine, where are the penguins? Then you scrub back through to find them. Cool. Here's how many penguins there are. Write that down on my little pad. So when I go to input the numbers, I know that that's that many. It's not that complicated in having to find out 15 different numbers to have to input, for me to have to note them down. No, there was 4 to find. So actually I could have just remembered them. And I think I did, without actually referring back to the notepad. Kim looked over my shoulder whilst I was playing it as well. She's like, oh, what's this? It looks very intriguing. So I popped my headphones out so she could hear it as well. And she actually helped me out on that numbers one, because I thought I was doing the right, inputting the right numbers, until she noticed sort of a mistake that I'd made, a very simple mistake that I'd made as well, because she, with a fresh pair of eyes, came into it and went, "Oh, it's this instead of this." And I'm like, "Of course it is, absolutely," and we were able to sort of progress. So it's definitely one of those games where I think Kim could very easily pick up on it, and she sat with me for a little bit longer, and we sort of scrolled through the text and the story and stuff, and she checked out at the end of the end of the chapter, which I think I put it down at the end of that chapter, to be fair. So it's got a lovely sort of draw to it, from the play, from the art, from the music. Like, everything is just rolled into this really good package. So yeah.
Sounds grand.
It's just a fun puzzle narrative experience.
Do you know how long the demo was? Did you say?
I don't know how long the demo is. I'm currently.
I assume it's a chapter, probably.
Potentially, yeah, just the first 2 chapters. I am on I'm just about to start chapter 4.
Right.
Probably. So I open it up and see if it gives me anything. I don't know. Where is it? I'm sure my volume is down. It's not. There we go. Let's see. I think it's made by a Spanish studio as well. At least the words look Spanish. Got that. Patrones and Escondites. I've absolutely butchered that. I've got no idea if that's what that says.
You definitely have.
Patrones?
Patrones and
Escondites. Escondites, okay.
Yeah.
Rather than Escondites.
Yes.
Yes, they are Spanish, yes.
Yes. Devuego.es. Interesting.
So... Ooh. Oh.
So they also did Unmemory 2020.
I don't know if I know that one.
You woke up covered in blood. What happened? Who killed your girlfriend? It seems you can't remember a thing. Hopefully you can piece together the clues and find the person who's responsible.
I do not know that one.
It's a text-based interactive game. So same style of game, but a lot more Memento-y versus it sounds like they've figured out that they don't need to lean into the tropes. On this one.
Yeah. They've got, so this is their 4th game, it looks like, from their website. So they've got some experience, definitely, in putting all of that together. I don't think there's more than 5 chapters within this, or at least the space for the amount of chapters on the front page would suggest that there is 5. I'm more than halfway through. I probably spent.
There's 5 chapters according to this Steam community walkthrough page.
Cool.
There we go. Off.
I think I've spent, as I say, about an hour with it, maybe a little bit more. So it might be about a 2, maybe 2.5 hour game. So I would imagine it won't outstay its welcome when when I get towards the end. And as I say, it moves quite quickly as well. So even within the chapters, you feel like the pace is right for it, and you're never sort of sat there going, "Oh, what am I meant to do next?" Everything feels quite natural in its progression and in how you're trying to solve those puzzles. So yeah, big thumbs up. That's the new rating system. Big thumbs up.
Versus just a thumbs up.
Yes.
Medium thumbs up? Is that a thing?
I suppose a big in the sky, right by my head, almost a thumb as big as my head. Thumbs up. That's a big thumbs up. That's
amazing.
Like a medium thumbs up, and then the one back there is kind of like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, I think it's kind of one of those games that both you and Lucy would enjoy.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I'm super curious.
Yeah, especially with it being such a short experience. And as I say, I think it's on Steam as well. So it must be because you just looked at the Steam community.
Yeah, like it is. Yeah. It is $4.29 on Steam.
Okay. Yeah.
How much was it on?
Oh, I guess I got the card. I got a code, so I don't know how much it was.
Let me do a quick Google Play Store perusal.
That's a good idea. Just to see if there's that Google tax. Or Steam tax, I suppose. Is it out yet?
Oh. It has an install with in-app purchases. So presumably...
Maybe because you get a demo, maybe you get to play the first chapter and then it will pop up and go, it's this much money.
That's annoying because now I can't say how much it is.
Well, yeah.
Are there reviews? There are none because it's brand new.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it came out on the 14th. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. A really smart, really good game. So, get on it.
Sounds great.
Cool. That's pretty much all I've played. Because time is rubbish. I think my child is waking up.
Oh no.
Which seems well timed that she's done it at the end of me talking about a game. But
that's fair.
She's not shouting or anything. So cool. I guess she's just wiggling around a little bit. Fair. I did turn the PlayStation on earlier.
Holy crap. On Netflix?
No. My PlayStation app on my phone popped up saying you haven't claimed your there's only like a week left to claim the PlayStation Plus games for this month. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I haven't done that. I'll go on and claim them. And I don't remember exactly what they are. Oh, I do. Battlefield 19. No, not 19. Battlefield, the new one. The new Battlefield game. 2040 or something. Minecraft Dungeons and Code Vein.
Oh, Code Vein. I was mildly interested in that at one point.
Yeah. So I assigned them and said, yes, cool, put them into my library, please. That would be nice. And then I realised that PlayStation are still doing this rewards program that they started last year, perhaps. Or it's like an evolution of the rewards program that they had in the US from a couple of years ago. Maybe slightly altered. I think that one was kind of spend some money and get some points back sort of thing, which this one still does. You spend some money and you get points, and points means potential discounts. 5,000 points or something is like a £20 voucher on the store, or you could buy a £15 game for 3,500 points kind of thing. So points do mean prizes within this, as they do with sort of Microsoft rewards. But they have a bunch of challenges on the app, and they're obviously the same almost as Microsoft rewards do. Play game X and get some points. Log in for it's not log in for the day as Xbox is, but this one on PlayStation basically has had me open up 5 games today and play none of them to be able to just bag a few points.
Just open them.
Towards it. Just open them, and it pops up on the app and
they're
goes,
getting
"You
paid
have
by BT
achieved."
for bandwidth.
Well, one of them I did have to download, but it only took like 2 minutes. Minecraft Dungeons must be quite a small game, because one of the quests was play one of the PlayStation Plus games.
Right.
Another one was,
And by play, they mean turn on.
They mean turn on. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly the same as the Microsoft reward system. You know, you never actually had to play anything. You just had to open the game, and it would go, "Oh, you have opened the game. Perfect. Here is the points." I'd have to have a look at how the points translate across from this and the sort of Microsoft rewards. You know, the amount that you need for the monetary amount that you get, because not all of the achievements or the challenges that you get on the PlayStation 1 actually give you these points. Some of them give you collectible little trophy things.
Of course they do.
So only some of them actually give you kind of, I suppose, coins rather than points. And I think I'm up to like 700 coins or something now, which isn't anywhere near being able to purchase anything. You know, like 3,000 is probably like the minimum that I would need to buy a game. But yeah, it had me turn the PlayStation on for a little bit. And
I mean, I think that's how they get you, right?
Yeah, I did. So one of them was play The Last of Us. Or The Last of Us remastered on PS5, remastered on PS4 or remake on PS5 to get the points. And
oh, good lord, that's confusing.
Yeah, absolutely confusing. I had downloaded The Last of Us several weeks ago, I think after I'd watched maybe like the second or third episode of the TV show. I'm like, I feel like I could go back and play this game again. Not that I have, because who has the time to do that? At least the first game is only a like 15-hour game, rather than the second game, which is like 4,000 hours to slog through that narrative. But I started it up, and I got to, and this is only on the PlayStation 4 version, right? It's not the remake. It's not the newly built version of the first game. It's just the remastered version. And it popped up and said, your telly has, whatever it's called, HDR. Would you like to turn that on? I'm like, yes, I would. And what a difference that actually makes just on that game. Like, I've turned it on a couple of other games, and you can't see a massive difference. But on that one, even on just the title screen, I'm like, wow, there's a huge difference on this.
The big problem with HDR is there's multiple different HDR standards, and some of them you don't like, because HDR basically needs a shit ton of brightness.
Yep.
And so if you're on one of the standards, then your television might not be bright enough when it goes into HDR.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you need the software to not only need HDR software, but like just kind of like 3D, but less picky. You need it to be mastered well for HDR.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, and then, but when it happens, you're like, holy shit, why not alt TV like this?
Absolutely. I did wonder whether it's probably very easy for them to get that right on the title screen.
Oh, yeah. Title screen's a great place.
I haven't played the game. I turned the game off and started up Minecraft Dungeons to get those points instead. But the that shift in the way that it looked with the HDR on, and just the intro music, and I'm like, oh, I really want to play this again. And I'm very slowly plugging away at the missions in Crisis Core to get some of the better equipment to kind of then go and see. I've only got one chapter of the game left, which I haven't played again for like a week or two. But I'm plugging away at their mission structure. They've got all these replayable missions that you can do. Which levels Zack up a little bit and gets you different gear and better items, and levels up the materia and all this sort of stuff for the fusions that you can do and things. And like, cool, there's like 3 bits of equipment that I really want, which allow me to limit break my health, damage, So you can go past 9,999. So I can be hitting for more than that if I have this item equipped. And that's kind of what I want for the rest of the game. So I can just be like, cool, I've got 1 chapter left. Ping, 1 hit kill. Ping, 1, I imagine that the enemies will scale up quite a lot with it because combat has been relatively easy in Crisis Core. But I'm just plugging away at that. And I think, do I just sack it off and not finish Crisis Core? And just go and play something else. Whether it is The Last of Us remastered, whether it's a couple of games of Battlefield, Future War, or whatever it's called, just to see what the state of that game is right now. I also downloaded, because there was this big update for the PlayStation Plus catalog, so the tier that you get when you're an extra person. You get access to that big catalogue of games that they've now got on the go, like Game Pass. But Chia, which is a new open world game, which came out this week, is day and date on PS Plus, as like Stray was. So I've downloaded that. And Life is Strange True Colours, so the newest one that came out last year, has just come out on that, along with the other 3 Life is Strange games. So the first game, the not spin-off, the extra bit before the storm, for that, and the second game. I'm like, do I download Life is Strange 2? There's not really a connection between 2 and 3, and 2 is probably more the same as 1, and actually 3 sounded from all of the reviews like it was a bit of a step, so I've kind of skipped 2, and I've gone straight to just downloading the third Life is Strange game. Interestingly enough, not called Life is Strange 3, but
on the Crisis Core thing, as a person who notoriously doesn't finish games, I say if you're asking the question and you have access to other games that you aren't paying for between Game Pass and PlayStation, whatchamacallit, there's no reason to stay with a game, and if you actually miss it, you can go back. It doesn't it doesn't get removed from your memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But if you're I think the best thing I had to keep me at gaming versus not gaming was letting go of my completionist tendencies. And how I did that was be like, I'm feeling the drag of this game. Why don't I just do something else? And if the drag continues, great. I'll never touch it again, and I'll be okay with that, right?
Sure.
But if you're saying, there's a mechanically I'm doing these things, but the rest of the game isn't holding me, and I have access to all these things. At the end of the day, this is for your entertainment and interest.
Absolutely.
And if it's not, use the should I as a flag of interested. Right?
Yeah, completely. I think the issue with Crisis Core is that I have gone into the cycle of just doing these missions rather than progressing through with the story. So it is just combat encounter after combat encounter after combat encounter, getting progressively harder, which is fine. But the combat is meh within Crisis Core. It's fine. It's nothing special, which you wouldn't expect from a game which released nearly 20 years ago. So it's just a slightly different, not even that different version of that. A little bit faster, I think, for more modern sensibilities than it was on the PSP. But not a huge amount different. So I think it's almost like a rut that I've got in with it, rather than having just continued with the story. If I'd have just done the story and not worried about any of these items, I'd have finished it by now.
Yeah, but that's also okay.
Yeah. So I think I'll give something else a go. The only time I'm getting to play the PlayStation is first thing in the morning. So when I come downstairs with the kids at 5:30 or 6 o'clock,
right,
and I've given myself 20 minutes to be a human and have a coffee and sort the kids out. Usually Indy just crawling all over me because she's seen that the PlayStation control pad has gone on. She's like, what is this? This is the thing that I now want the most in my life. And Evelyn just sat watching some kids trash Netflix program, like My Little Pony or Lego Friends thing, something like that. Anyway, that's the time I'm getting to play some PlayStation, which has kind of felt okay for these crisis core missions. Turn it on. I've got people around me that I need to be paying attention to, so actually to do these little kind of 5-minute missions is quite good in that I have other stuff on my mind, rather than going, I want an hour to sit down and finish this game. I'm not going to get that. Everything I'm doing at the moment in all of the gaming space is these little 5-minute snapshots. Marvel Snap. 5 minutes, one game done. Cool. Put it down. Delete after reading. I played that in an evening, actually. So that's why I had that hour to be able to put into it.
Right.
So, yeah, gaming habits have changed completely. And there's codes that have come in for games that I've wanted to play, and I'm like, I just will not get to this. I absolutely know that there's no chance that I will have to put into playing Dredge or whatever it is that's come out recently that I'm interested in. There's games like what's it called, Darkest Dungeon 2, that is releasing like this week or next week. I'm pretty sure the 1.0 version is this month, that I really want to get to again. But
as you say, this is non-early access release. Like
this is the actual release. And I think my biggest gripe with that game, from what I've played from it, is how long it takes to play. So because it's this roguelike,
like a run,
on a run, like a run can take ages, and a run is made up of like 4 stages. Right, so each stage is taking half an hour to kind of get through. That's 2 hours per run. And okay, the game saves. I can go and have one combat encounter, move on to the next node on the map, and save it and come out. But again, it doesn't feel like I'm progressing. There's no satisfaction almost through that, because one of the joys of Darkest Dungeon is the whole stress system, and seeing the characters kind of fall into madness from stressing out. And Dark Dungeon 2's introduced this relationship system as well. So the characters actually build either a rapport or a hatred towards each other based upon some of the actions and some of the decisions that are kind of made. So seeing that through over a 30-minute period, great. Having 5 minutes and going, what the fuck was happening the last time I was in this game? I've got no idea. What is this group's like limitation? I don't remember.
Now I know. And also like
now I know, because we're all
it's
dead.
It's the type of game where you have to pay attention and like remember. So like mid-run breaks are also like suboptimal, because you're more likely to come back to it without the right balance in your head.
Yes,
like just one of those games you have to track, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, and it hits all the other right notes. The aesthetic's great, the sound design. A lot of it's pulled over from the first game, which I really, really liked. It's just this change of structure which has not thrown me, but just doesn't fit what I can play at this moment. And I think it made sense for them to change kind of the formula and the structure that the second game did, rather than just re-releasing the first one with a different place to do all of these kinds of things. Build the base that you had, or the town that you had in that, and upgrade all of the different shops and people coming in and all of that kind of stuff to progress the characters. This one's a little different in that you're uncovering backstory on different nodes. You can unlock upgrades for characters as you progress through. So because you're doing it in very small chunks, that progression's really, really slow. And it doesn't feel, it's not even that it's slow, it just doesn't feel that any progression is being made. The game needs X amount of collectible 1 to upgrade a character's stat. And you might
that means it actually needs Y amount of time in order for you to feel like you're doing a thing.
Exactly that. It doesn't have the same quick hits, and I think that's to its detriment. It might be that to upgrade a character I need 12 things, but I'm only getting 3 on a run. So actually I need to do the full, or 3 on a stage of a run. So I need to do the full 4 stages to get the 12 I need to upgrade a character. But if I can't upgrade my character and things are getting progressively harder, then I'm going to die before I've got through the third part of that run. So I'm only getting 6 of the things. So actually I've just got to start again to get another 6 of the things. Then I can upgrade the character to maybe get to the 4th stage of the run. I think the balance on it, at least in the early access version, which I haven't played for since January, probably. A couple of months definitely, was a little bit unbalanced, and I'd like to see that change. So I do want to get back to it, but I need like an afternoon. I need some time to go. Cool, I've got an hour. Let's put it into Darkest Dungeon 2. And see whether any of those things feel that little bit better. Oh, great, it does. I can just spend 15 minutes with it and feel like I've made a little bit of progression, and I can kind of come back to it. And my situation, 2 children, a very full-on full-time job, isn't everyone's situation. And it's not that people are making games necessarily for me anymore. Unlike when I had no children and all of the time in the world, when I had no money to buy games, but I could play one game forever. So this weird shift.
6 of one, half dozen the other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a person who has had less time to play games since September?
Mm-hmm.
Right when I was getting back into playing games last year.
Yeah.
It's just like between work and a new relationship and making new friends and whatever, it's just like, no, games are just not on the menu. Right? And the few times I've played, I've really enjoyed. It's like, no, I'm definitely not. This has happened in the past where it's been like, I'm just not in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened in the past where it's like guilt for other stuff. Like PhD guilt was a thing I talked at length about.
Yep.
It's not that. I just can't find the time to sit in front of this computer outside of the podcast and like do the thing. Like I don't have the luxury of like my Tuesday afternoon stream like I used to, right? Where it's just like, well, I'll freelance, so I'll just from 12 to 2 on Tuesdays stream and play a game for 2 hours and get like my minimum like gameplay hobby. Instead, it's like, boy, would that be neat. Anyway, I'll be at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was it was the same for me a year ago. That I could go, cool, I'll just have a lunch break and I'll play something for an hour or an hour and a half. Whereas now, just got to work through lunch. Sorry, too much to do. So it is that shift in lifestyle, I suppose, which has me. Probably my most played game this year is Marvel Snap.
I mean, that makes sense because it's like the right length of time.
Yep, absolutely. And even if I'm... So, again, a slight shift in kind of the way that things happen. We've got to a point with Evelyn where I take her into a bedroom to go to bed, say goodnight, read her a story, and then I leave the room. Whereas before, she wanted me to stay. She wanted me to talk to her, hold her hand until she fell asleep. She's got to a point where she's, happy and confident enough to just take herself off to sleep.
That's great.
So I've walked out of her bedroom and I've stood at her bedroom door and gone, fuck, am I meant to do now? I've got like 20 minutes of time that I usually wouldn't have. And I find, well, actually this evening I came and sat in the chair. I came and sat here and did a work email instead. Rather than spending the 20 minutes that I'd be stood next to her bed playing Marvel Snap. So again, I've got more time. Brilliant. What shall I do? I'll just do some more work. Fuck it.
Yep.
Rather than playing some games. So when we finish, I might jump on just to do some of the daily quests in Snap and stuff. Rather than really get into something. Because, again, gets this time of night. I'm knackered, mate. I want to go to bed.
I may have forgotten about playing a game.
Ooh,
sort of.
okay.
So, one of my friends at work, Joe, he's also my office mate, had a bad landlord, and they basically were like, you don't get to stay after the end of the academic year.
Mm-hmm.
But also we're like, are you coming back in September? It's like, you are kicking him out. What do you think? Anyway, so because I had to, for those of you who weren't listening around September, I had a real hard problem finding a place, and so I'm renting a place here in Durham, which has too many rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons why I have all these boxes in this room is because I had to remove all the boxes from what I called the box room to make space for Joe. So Joe's moved in, but he also had a friend come to town last weekend, and
Nice.
his friend ostensibly helped him move. And so Nick, his friend, and Emily were over, and they had never VR'd.
Oh,
So we
okay.
played Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes,
Nice.
which, for those who don't know, technically you can play with a laptop, but for those of you on the podcast, Ben has made a quizzical look at a printer.
Yes,
I think he's poking at it.
My printer has decided to clean itself randomly. Of course.
Yeah,
Printer
it's
noises.
outside of work hours.
Let me mute myself whilst this happens, and you continue, please.
Yeah, so they had never VR'd, and so Keep Talking When Nobody Explodes is a game where there's basically, it's really great for something like an Oculus Quest, which I have, because you don't have the screen, like people can't see what you're doing, right? And so normally it's like, all right, so watch the person flail, take turns, play Beat Saber or Super Hot or something, and just deal with that. But what sometimes happens is someone's really into it, and they're just kind of like making whoops and noise hollers, and they're like using most of the living room space, because that's how VR works, and everyone else is just kind of talk around it. Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes is, there's a person who was at a bomb site, right? They're in a place where a bomb is, and they have to defuse the bomb, and the bombs get increasingly difficult, but they're basically like a briefcase bomb like they have in the movies, and they have a various number of panels with other stuff on it, and everyone else is back home at base, but of course in the same room. And the idea is you're like on comms, but really you have an actual. I really like playing it with the physical printouts, an actual manual, diffusing manual, and what's great about it is there's like, it's basically just like a game of telephone, because it's just like, okay, how many panels are there? All right, first one. Was it like, okay, what does that one look like? It's got 4 symbols. Okay, so you flip through the manual to try and find the page that describes what to do in these cases, and then they're like, okay, so what do these 4 symbols look like? And then they tell you, like, okay, so now you have to push these in this order. Or there's like a bunch of wires. It turns out there's multiple things that have a bunch of wires, and you have to ask, are there letters or numbers? And then some of the things, it's like, if the serial number has a vowel in it, do this. And you're like, fuck, look for a serial number. Or like, how many batteries are there? So it's not just, is there a battery? It's like hunt and peck. And so they have to like VR pick it up and rotate it, and like hijinks ensues. And meanwhile, there's this tense music coming in their ear, etc., and then it blows up in their face if you fail. Right? And it's Joe insisted on getting us to the win, but like it ramps up difficulty reasonably well. But I had played it with other friends recently, and so we just started mid like ramp. But honestly, I have to say that like all 3 of them, before we even played game, we're just like in the place where you're in the room and you like pick up the manual and you say, okay, start a thing. We're just like, whoa, what? Oh, this is so weird. And just like the room with its desk, I was like, right, first time on VR, I remember this. And it was really adorable. And then watching them watch each other, I was like, yep, it's still that thing. And then I explained that like so much of the interesting VR stuff is experiences of like making use of this. Wow, this is really disorienting but kind of cool. Versus like an actual game. But Keep Talking Nobody Explodes is great because you can take turns, or someone can just ride it through, because it's like, okay, you've got the groove of like we can say, oh, it's a we can develop a shorthand, and that can kind of transfer across people. So like we finally beat a level like after a bunch, but like it was and like because there's three of us and three manuals, there's like some crosstalk where like, oh, someone has to like fade away so that like we can get there because there's a time limit, and there's some things that people are just like really bad at describing in a way that you wouldn't expect. So it was a lot of fun. I think it's one of my favorite PC party games, and I know that it's like a huge outlay. You can actually play it on a laptop, and the idea is they just like face the other way.
Right, like almost two laptops kind of across the desk from each other, kind of looking towards each other, sort of thing.
So I actually think that the diffusers just find a printer, use the printout, flip back and forth. There's something about the tactileness that really makes the game experience. But you could use a bomb diffuser not actually in another room, but just like laptop facing them.
Yep.
This is what I see. But there's that added thing with the picking up and the rotating and the like watching them like be in the space while you're not in the space that I think makes the VR version just better. Because it feels like this collaborative but disjoint thing, like you're observing your friend somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's real fun. And yeah, I would definitely recommend people try it out if they have access to a VR thing. But in general, I think, let me just check on Steam. I know it's a Steam game.
What's the new VR? Not the PlayStation one, but is there an updated Quest or a?
Yeah, all the reviews say it's not worth it.
Right. Okay.
It's like good graphics, but like software, it just doesn't. The total thing is like no, it's so expensive. Basically, Meta's trying not to eat the hardware costs the way that PSVR and Quest 2 were. Yeah. So Keep Talking Nobody Explodes is a currently on 10%. No, why $10.99.
Okay.
And it runs in standard and VR modes. It's not a different version. I really like that about this game. So, like, if I have my tablet with me, I could, like, impromptu play this game with people. I just have to email them the PDF, right? It's just, like I said, it's just not quite ideal without.
It's just a different way, isn't it? It's just a different kind of experience, I suppose. Turns it more into as though almost the people in the trailer on Steam are experiencing it as a man sat with his laptop looking at stuff, and then the team are in front of him looking at the printouts to try and shout stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so the OG version was this, right?
Yeah.
And it was so smart of them to just like clearly like sent a bunch of programming cycles to a VR person. It's not complicated, but yeah, actually, if you look for those of you interested, the Steam page, if you look at the trailer or like the first screenshot, you can see that like that screenshot has 6 panels. In the top right corner of each panel is a light, and it turns green when you've solved it.
Right.
So you know exactly where you're getting to, but you also have to check the back. But that's sort of the difficulty. But yeah, and like, there's a wire puzzle, there's the general timer, there's like, oh, it's a button. What does it say? If it says this and it's this color, like it's a lot of decision tree type stuff, but like some of it's based on memory, some of it, like the bottom right on that first screenshot is actually a maze where if you see it, it's like a grid and you see 2 green dots and then a red dot and a white dot. And the green dots are a key to figure out what the maze, which of the 9 possible maze outlays there are. And you are trying, and the people with the manuals are trying to navigate the white dot to the red dot.
Right.
But it's a maze with walls, and if you run into a wall, you lose. With the person can't see the walls, they can only see the white dot, the red dot, and the 2 green dots are how they can tell if they communicate that right. You will find the right map to have to back and forth navigate to. And it's a really fun one because it's like, At one point, Joe was just like struggling with like how to communicate it, and then it was like XY coordinates. And where I want to say like, okay, go down all the way to the bottom, then take a right 3 spaces, go up. It was like 7-4, all the way down to 11-4 or whatever, right? He was
Yep.
just like, oh, that's how like the rest of the room was communicating. I'm like, oh, I super have lost the track of this 3 moves in. Like I can use that to help figure out which map we're on and where the start end point is. But as soon as we start moving, I think of it kind of from the point of view of the white dot, and so I just lost the tether. It was really interesting to see, and so I just like faded away, and then the rest of the room communicated fine. It was like, ah, right, part of this game is knowing when to shut up.
Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Nice. Good.
yeah. Anyway, so that was my
Yeah. Nice.
gaming that I forgot about
It's nice
because
to
I
have
just
those.
assumed I had none.
Yeah. It's nice to have those little experiences with everybody, especially with something that is an experience, rather than just kind of, we were previously talking about, you sit down and play something like The Quarry with Emily, or those kinds of games, which is like, yeah, it's cool, it's a game and we get to play together, whereas something like this is very different, to experience it all together. So very, very cool. It seems like a good place for us to wrap up this week.
Probably.
How was the beer?
It got better. So what I will say, which is what I was holding back on, was it's still quite the mosaic still has those like weird moments that are kind of blippy, but the porteriness is coming through now that the export sort of the India export, whatever they call the export India, like intensity of bitterness has kind of my palate got used to. It's letting those portery notes come through. It's still a very unique beer. I'm not sure how I would. It's weird. I think actually might be having a weird mental breakthrough. It might be what I secretly always hope a black IPA is.
Okay, right. That makes sense.
And hilariously, I wasn't expecting that here, so I was confused.
Just super hop forward, or at least maybe not hop forward, but
like living the
extra,
IPA part more strongly. Yeah. And what I will say is it's a little intense on that like bland sort of bitter for bitterness sake part. But once my palate got used to it, everything else like worked.
Brilliant, good. Is it kind of a have you had it in the fridge?
I took it out maybe. That might have been. I took it out maybe 10, 15 minutes before we podcasted.
Cool.
So it might have been just a little too cold as well at the beginning.
It's an interesting one because with the temperature having gone up in the last couple of days, and that change, it's starting to be like, oh, actually, I need to start to put the stouts and porters back in the fridge again, just to drop them down and then take them out an hour before you kind of want to drink them. Whereas previously, like I got this one, which has been sat out, a Tartarus beer. What's that one? 9.5% stout, which I've had sat out for weeks now.
Right.
But I'm thinking to myself, ooh, when I get to drink it, maybe I'll have to go and put it in the fridge for the day, because it's now like 13, 14 degrees, and it's more like actually 19 degrees in the house. So if I'm going to drink it, refrigerate it for a bit. But again, like your beer, maybe don't leave it in for 5-10 minutes before I'm about to drink it. Take it out about an hour or so before, so it just lifts up to maybe about 8-10 degrees, something like that potentially. Nice.
Great.
So the Cosmic Dance from Two Flints. It remained really good throughout the entire beer. It didn't kind of start to get chewy or cloying or anything like that with a fuller body that it had to it. The flavours remained bold. They didn't start to disappear. That kind of maybe the slight sweetness right at the start faded out a little bit, or faded out quicker than anything else, at least on my palate. But those lovely stone fruit flavours stuck around quite nicely. It's slightly more apricot in that flavour than, say, like peach. So it's really nice. It's a really lovely beer. Super smooth, super soft. Really, really good example of an IPA. And a great first showing, at least for me, from Two Flints. So
yeah, sounds great. I'm definitely, just based on the initial description you had, I'm gonna be buy on citing them.
Yes, yeah. So I'll definitely be. I'm sure there was maybe one or two others in the bottle shop when I went in. So I'll be having a look at picking those up almost sort of straight away. The only other beer that's kind of come close to this recently is the Wiper and True Don Zoco birthday beer, which I had earlier today. The lager,
nice,
just so well made, like incredibly good. I think out of all of the Wiper and True birthday beers I've had, that is the best. So if anyone's thinking about picking those beers up, or maybe they haven't and they think, oh, maybe I'll get one, then the lager is the one to get, definitely. It's interesting to see the difference between kind of some beers which are coming up, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see where they've experimented a little bit and it tastes nice and it's fine, versus just a pretty solid flavour, nothing incredibly special. But when it's so well put together as a package, the beer becomes just that much better than something which is, oh, this flavour's amazing, but it's a bit weak and a bit kind of watery and
a bit.
Yeah, just a solid beer from Two Flints. So yeah, there we go.
Great,
perfect. So they're the beers, and they're the games that we have played, not just that we've played.
Yeah, I played
this
the game.
week. Hooray. If you want to talk to us about the games that you've been playing or the beers that you have been drinking, you can do so at Tanked Upcast on the socials. I'm at Nova_47 and Aadil is
at the Omniarch.
If you have any recommendations for other party VR games or other short mobile experiences, then let us know. We're always open for new games to play and new beers as well. If there's anything that you've drank which you would really highly rate and recommend, then let us know. We'll try and find them. Go to outoflives.net because lots of stuff goes up over there. Lee's putting up reviews all the time. Carl's writing articles about lots of interesting stuff. And you can see our beautiful faces and the beers that we've been drinking on the video version over at outoflives.net. Or if you don't want to go there, we've got a YouTube channel at Out of Lives where you can also see all of that. Or if you'd be so kind as to rate and review us on your podcast service of choice, it would be very much appreciated. I think that's all of the places that we inhabit and the ways to get hold of us. Aadil, is there anything to finish out on for this episode?
Play games if you can.
Yeah, fair.
And give up if they're boring.
That's a very good sentiment to finish on. Thank you very much for joining us. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net